I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, February the 22nd, brought to you in part by the Witex Corporation, established way back in 1967. Witex provides excellence in animal health, including but not limited to all-American ID tags for all classes of livestock. For more information, go to y-tex.com. The threat of delivery. And we've always thought that that is the only thing that keeps your live cattle contract true, is the threat of delivery. If you short cattle or you sell cattle on the CME live cattle futures, that really gives you the option to sell those cattle whenever that contract comes to fruit or when it matures. It hardly ever happens. Mostly because your cash price and your futures price come together, and so it's not really worth doing. But right now we're sitting here in late February with the current February live cattle contract sitting around 184, and we're not able to get any better than 180 for cattle in the country on a direct basis there. Usually costs, and I've talked to a lot of feedlots that have delivered cattle, if you're not too far from a delivery point, usually costs you about $1.50, $100 to deliver cattle with expenses and things like that. And so you would think that we would be delivering a lot of cattle. Well, nobody wants to take delivery of the cattle for the most part. You get those cattle and they've got the weights moved up pretty high now, and it's hard to find a kill slot unless you're a packer to take those cattle, and your packers aren't going to really play in that. But if you're an individual and you take delivery of those cattle, likely you're not going to be able to get those cattle into slaughter real quick, and you're going to have a lot of shrink and things like that, expenses that go with it. So most of the time, if people take delivery of the cattle, that means they're going to put them back on feed, try to get them going again, and that's hard on big heavy cattle to get them going again after you've taken them off feed, wooled them around a little bit, changed their atmosphere and all that kind of thing. So we just don't see it happen very often, and we don't have any of those really hardcore guys in the industry like Memphis Charlie McVeigh to take delivery, and guys like him were the ones that took delivery back when we had big deliveries 10, 12, 15 years ago. And I was involved in that working for USDA. I graded a world of delivery cattle at pretty much all your delivery spots that they have. And it was fun to be a part of and all that kind of thing. But we're sitting here at right around 184. For your February live cattle futures, and there's quite a bit of open interest there. There's a lot of contracts that could still be delivered. Not sure if anybody wants to take delivery, but what you see is when you get here and everything is bullish, 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 and all your cattle markets are higher, then you get here at this point and you see your current contract, February live cattle, go down 42 cents on Wednesday, and then all the rest of your contracts are higher because they're still on the bullish note. But your current contract, whenever it's mature, is not going to get any higher. It's going to back up because people are getting scared of being delivered upon. And it's your longest long that's going to get delivered upon the fastest, so they're getting nervous about that. They don't want any loads of big fat cattle delivered on their back doorstep or at their closest delivery point there. They don't know what to do with them. A lot of those people are not in the cattle business. They're just commodity traders, so they're not interested in getting to that. So it does keep your contract coming together here, but we're getting pretty close to the end here, and if we don't get close to 184 for fat cattle on a direct basis in the country this week, there probably are going to be a ton of deliveries. There's already been a few, about 16 deliveries is all, but the threat is still there, and that's why you see that happen. Now in your feeder cattle, they're a cash settlement contract, so they used to be able to deliver feeder cattle, but it got real hard to do because the people in the Southern Plains didn't really want the Northern Plains guys' cattle, and vice versa. The Northern Plains guys didn't want the Southern Plains cattle, and then You know, people were delivering big calves when you're really wanting yearling type feeder cattle there. You know, you were delivering steers. A lot of people would sit in the sales and buy cutting bulls and cut them and then try to deliver them and things like that. And people are always trying to push, you know, what's going on, push the rules and push the measurements there. And it got to be a kind of a mess, so they went to cash settlement with your CME cash feeder cattle index. Well, your CME cash feeder cattle index is sitting at 242.66. It's under what your real-time index is. Of course, it's always up to date and current, and that's always CME is always a day and a half behind. And I realize we're at the March feeder cattle contract, so that's not till next month. But still, we're getting fairly close with your March feeder cattle sitting at 251.35, and that's like $9 higher than what your CME cash feeder cattle index is. So they're going to start working their way back into congruence with your CME cash feeder cattle index. And so you saw your feeder cattle here on Wednesday, March feeder cattle were down 2 cents. Not a lot, because there's still a lot of bullishness, and we're seeing people blowing their brains out in the auctions, giving big money for feeder cattle. But then you get to your other contracts like April, and it was up 57, and most of your others were up 2 until you went out to November. But that's just kind of how your board works with your cash trade. And the threat of delivery is what's keeping your current live cattle contract for February from going up anymore, because it's got to get down there or a lot of people are going to get delivered upon. But you got new highs for feeder cattle, new highs every day. Every day people text me through the day with prices that normally I couldn't believe, but I'll pretty much believe anything now as high as these prices are getting. Guys that have grass and they're wanting stocker cattle to turn out on, there's no limit to what they'll give for them. And we talked on our last visit about we're starting to get to the point where these feeder cattle, the ones going right into the feedlot, you know, it doesn't look like they're going to work very well. Of course, we're always betting on the come, but how far do you want to risk that? But it's getting up there pretty high. I had a good friend of mine there, Brandon Neely. He's a world champion livestock auctioneer, and some folks don't really know him because he's from back east. He lives in Virginia there, and he sells the sale in Moorefield, West Virginia, and he also markets his own cattle there. And so Brandon was telling me that he and his wife Jackie sold their personal cattle, sold a load of them on the board sale at South Branch Valley Livestock Exchange in Moorefield, West Virginia. Now I'm going to be out in West Virginia here week after next doing some speaking engagements. I think I'm actually going to be speaking in Moorefield, West Virginia. I'm looking forward to that. I got a couple other talks going to be up there in Virginia, and if you guys are able to come to it, there was Beringer Ingelheim, and get a hold of your sales agent there and make sure that you can come to those events. But I'm looking forward to going out there. But on Wednesday at the South Branch Valley Livestock Exchange board sale in Moorefield, West Virginia, Brandon and Jackie Neely sold 53 steers. Now, they were cattle that he had bought off a graded sale out there in that part of the country, you know, about 3 or 4 months ago. And then he grew those cattle, and they're backgrounded cattle, not just running out, but they've been fed a ration there and in a barn in an open lot there. But they were Charolais Cross and red cattle. The base weight was 900 pounds, coming pretty quick, bring 245 in West Virginia, people. We talked on our last visit about 900-pound steers at 240 don't pencil out. I'm going to tell you, 900-pound steers at 245 in West Virginia do not pencil out either. But they sold to Pennsylvania feeders. They're selling at a premium out there, especially those guys that sell in New Holland, Pennsylvania, where I used to report the markets out there when I first started being a market reporter, selling there or out in Vintage or some of those good sales that they have in Pennsylvania. To some of those smaller packers out there. They got kosher kills out there. Fat cattle bring a premium out there, but I thought that was extremely high price there. He also told me about a friend of his, Bill Martin, who owns Lover's Lane Farm out there. He sold 180 black steers, weighed 825 for a base weight at 251 on the same board sale. This is in West Virginia, people. It's not in Garden City, Kansas, or Amarillo, Texas, or Kearney, Nebraska, or someplace like that. It's a big time quote, guys, and that just goes to show you how high these cattle are coast to coast, and I've been telling you how high they are out west. But if you guys haven't already entered the Punchy Pick contest, we got the spam deal out of the way, so we're getting those Punchy Picks coming in. The Punchy Pick of the Month winner will be coming up here just a few days. You've got a few days to get your Punchy Picks in. The grand prize winner will get all kinds of cool swag from Beaver Feed Company in Beaver, Oklahoma, Beaver County Stockyards there in Beaver, Oklahoma also, and then a whole case of Fairpiece, that revolutionary product that's scientifically proven. People are having so much good luck from it. And Dr. Rodrigo there with Fairpiece, he has ponied up for a whole nother year of the Punchy Pick contest and giving the grand prize away of a full case of Fairpiece. He sent a whole pallet to us, and then they unloaded it right there on the dock, and nobody was around. It was a lot of money sitting there, a whole pallet full of Fairpiece, but luckily the Porch Pirates didn't know what it was. But get your picks in for Punchy Pick, and the way you do that, snap a picture, send that picture to punchy@nationalbeefwire.com, and you're automatically entered. Let's talk about your board for Wednesday. February live cattle futures, as I said earlier, were down 42 cents at 183.97. April was up 37 cents at 187.70. Big premium there. Your back months were all up from 27 cents to 87 cents. March feeder cattle down just 2 cents at 251.35, a huge premium to what cash feeders are bringing now on the average. April feeder cattle up 57 cents at 255.92. Your back months were kind of mixed, down 37 cents on the November contract to as much as $1 higher. March corn was down 7 3/4 cents at 4.11 a bushel. 4.11 a bushel, guys. That is some cheap feed, and you kind of feel for your row crop farmers here, but it's good for your cattle feeders. March beans down 18 1/4 cents at 11.60 3/4. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for March down 8.5 cents a bushel at 5.77 1/4. Fat cattle trade has yet to develop at all. Direct basis in your 5 area feeding region, we saw just a few sales. I mean, very, very minimal sales. Dressed at 288 in Iowa, but nothing out of Nebraska, Kansas, or Texas on Wednesday. Of course, Colorado, if they have any sales, we don't get to see that because it's not enough to for the confidentiality filters on mandatory price reporting with USDA. But we had a fat cattle auction at Sioux Falls Regional Livestock in Worthing, South Dakota. That's a DVAuction broadcaster. If you're looking for fat cattle, I don't care if you're just a small locker plant or a regional pack or something like that, and you can't be there, you can view and bid those sales on DVAuction.com. Fat cattle sold $1 to $2 higher, spots $3 higher than last week. With conventional fat cattle, steers and heifers selling from 178 1/4 all the way up to 187, and there was no premium for program cattle, non-implanted or drug-free cattle there. Box beef cutout values were mixed. Choice cuts up 43 cents at 297.80. Select down 336 at 284.46. Your slaughter 349,000 through the first 3 days of this week, down 14,000 from last week and down 4,000 from the same week a year ago. So packers are really pulling back on the change speeds because they are not making money, according to analysts there on these fat cattle. Talk about what else is going on. Stay Tough Fencing. Sales representatives offer personal assistance in product selection, planning, and layout of your fencing, as well as fence installation training. And I would probably play dumb and see how much of that installation you could get done for free from those sales reps while they're training you. But stay strong, stay tight, stay tough with Stay Tough Fencing. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DVAuction. Based on an 800-pound steer up through your middle 12 states there. Late in the day on Wednesday, sitting at 245.12, up another $1.52. It was up big on Wednesday. Feeder cattle just lights out, calves even more. But as I said earlier, your latest CME cash feeder cattle index sitting at 242.66. Some cow sales that were going on. I told you about the big special they were having at Joplin Regional Stockyards after that monster record sale they had on Monday. They had a special bred cow sale there in Joplin on Wednesday evening, and top bred cows were selling up to $31.50. These cows have caught fire too, guys. Talk about your big feeder cattle auctions on Wednesday. OKC West in El Reno, Oklahoma, DVAuction broadcaster there. They sell their calves on Tuesday, their feeders on Wednesday. Together they sold 11,800 head. Big movement this week in El Reno. On Wednesday, your feeder cattle sold really well. Your feeder steers were $2 to $6 higher. Feeder heifers were $1 to $3 higher. On Tuesday at the calf sale, they were $8 to $12 higher, with pee-wee steers sharply higher, from $15 to $25 higher on your pee-wee steer calves. They're weighing under 4.5. But you look at the automated market report on your feeder sale on Wednesday at El Reno, and you see your best tested weights are all your bigger feeder cattle there, and look how well tested they were and how well they sold. This is the market in the Southern Plains, guys. 1,346 7-weight steers averaged 754 pounds with a weighted average price of $246.36. 1,612 head of 8-weight steers in El Reno averaged 847 at $231.83, and 1,516 head of 9-weight steers in El Reno, Oklahoma at an average weight of 944 pounds and a weighted average price of $219.67. How about your heifers? Feeder heifers in El Reno, 961 head in your 6-weight category, average 665 with a weighted average price of $236.29. 1,067 head of 7-weight heifers, average 758 at $219.17. And there were 470 head of 8-weight feeder heifers in El Reno. They averaged 851 pounds with a weighted average price of $212.35. Look at another sale. How about winter livestock in Dodge City, Kansas, straight north of there. 3,200 head in Dodge City. Good run for them. Their calves under 600 pounds, sharply higher, from $10 to $15 higher than last week. Feeders sold $1 to $4 higher for the most part. Good sale there. I thought it was interesting. The cows and bulls were quoted $8 to $11 higher in Dodge City, with top cow sales, slaughter cows up to $132 and top slaughter bulls up to $139. Pretty impressive, guys. Give you some individual quotes from all around on feeder cattle. How about Decorah Sales Commission in Decorah, Iowa? They sell 97 steers weighed 791 at $261.50. How about Bassett Livestock Auction, new DVAuction broadcaster out there in the Sand Hills of Nebraska? They sell 85 steers weighed 602 at $332.50. Oh my goodness. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Wednesday, your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day. Another DVAuction broadcaster in Hub City Livestock in Aberdeen, South Dakota. Look at this big long string. 6 loads of steers. They were Red Angus steers, weighed 861 and bring 250 and a half. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.